Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the September 19th, September 20th. Is this on? It's September 20th, thank you. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. If I can get your attention, please. Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for attending this morning. We're here for our monthly development services forum here at City Hall. We appreciate you attending and joining us. We do have limited speakers, but I think a robust conversation. We welcome some staff here, Cara Batista-Rao, who's going to address some sustainability initiatives that the city is undertaking. And then, of course, our featured guest is PG&E. Specifically, we have Vic Baker with PG&E and Tam, whose last name Tam Pham, who's also here to join us to do a presentation. As always, like to welcome you and recognize those in the room. I'd first like to thank and recognize Mayor Rich Carlston, who's here this morning joining us here in the yellow. Appreciate you being here, Mayor Carlston. We also have Sandy Meyer, the CED Director, Heather Ballinger in the back from Public Works, also Steve Waymire, who's the city engineer, among other staff, and I apologize if I don't catch everyone, but again, I want to thank you all for being here, Andy. And just wanted to say that as we start off every meeting every month, I just want to hit on a couple of housekeeping items that might be of interest to the development community, specifically as it relates last night to some action taken on accessory dwelling units. We had our second reading of the ordinance that is now going to become effective a month from yesterday. So middle towards the end of, in fact, I think when we meet for our next forum, the ordinance will take effect, and therefore our accessory dwelling unit ordinance will be live, will be law. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to contact our planning division. You can either contact me or one of the staff, and we'd be happy to walk you through. We're preparing a one-pager on the changes and how the new rules affect or apply to you. That said, I'd like to get right into the heart of the matter and welcome Cara Batista-Rao. She is an admin analyst here with the City of Walnut Creek, and she is, among other things, our guru on climate action plan that the city adopted a few years back, and also on any sustainability initiatives that we have going. So Cara, please, welcome. We'll cue you up.
So good morning, my name is Cara Batista-Rao, and as Ethan said, I'm an analyst in our Community and Economic Development Department, and I'll be talking about sustainability initiatives and how the development community can help. So in 2012, the City Council adopted our Climate Action Plan. So this is our strategic plan to address climate change, and our goal really is to reduce emissions 15% from 2005 levels by the year 2020. So as of 2016, we've done a great job. We've estimated we've reduced emissions about 9%, but we still have a ways to go. And we need businesses, residents, everyone really to help us get the rest of the way there. We also inventory where our emissions come from. So this helps us to kind of address programs, funding, staff time towards areas where we'll see the biggest impact. So the main source of emissions for Walnut Creek is the transportation sector. That's both local roads and highway. Coming in second, residential energy use from natural gas and electricity, and then right after that, commercial energy use from natural gas and electricity. So how are we going to reduce emissions? We want to target those top three sectors that I just mentioned to get the biggest impact. So there are four kind of overarching strategies. Step one is really to find a clean source of energy. So look at renewable energy, use electricity from renewable energy. Step two is to power as much as we can off of that renewable electricity. So electrifying the transportation sector is a big step. Step three, energy efficiency. So natural gas, electricity use, we really want to shrink how much we're using. And then step four is reducing our waste and consumption. So step one is already underway, and the city joined MCE in 2016. MC is a group of local government agencies that banded together to take over the role of buying and purchasing electricity and they provide 55% of its electricity from renewable energy sources. So without doing anything, your building is getting cleaner energy at comparable rates. And MCE also offers a 100% deep green option for electricity. So if you want to pay a little bit more on your utility bill, you can have renewable energy at not much more cost. And customers who want to opt out can remain with PG&E for electricity service. So PG&E continues to be responsible for all other functions, natural gas, grid infrastructure, transmission and distribution, and they can provide electricity if you want to receive it from them. So we can also develop solar here locally in Walnut Creek. This map is from the Google Project Sunroof project. And it just shows how much solar potential there is on Walnut Creek. If we had every building that could go solar actually go solar, we would totally be done with our climate action plan. We would have met our goals. So I just want to share some resources with you for those who are interested in putting solar on your development projects. So I won't go through all of these, but just to mention, MCE has some new resources for you. So they have a really generous net energy metering policy. And they also have a feed-in tariff. So I put some handouts in the back, but if you want to use that rooftop space for solar and earn more revenue from it, these resources might help your projects pencil better. MC's Deep Green option also counts towards LEED certification. So if you want to get certified, there's a handout on how that works with MCE. And then new technology. So battery storage is an emerging technology. Much like cell phones, the cost is coming down, except for the iPhone. Solar, the cost has come down. So as battery storage costs come down, you can really pair that well with solar and make those projects save your utility bills energy by using that electricity at off-peak hours. So there's a lot of potential there. San Francisco developed this resilient solar website to help you right-size your solar and storage. So this is yet another thing that might take up space in your building that you may want to plan ahead for. So check that out. And then for residents, if you're a Bay Area resident, you can get solar at a discount or purchase an electric vehicle through November through the Bay Area SunShares program. So step 2 in our strategy is to electrify the transportation sector, which is no small task. This is a map from the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project, and it just shows that there are a lot of rebates going out the door to the Bay Area. We're a real hotspot for electric vehicles, and the market is growing. So because transportation is 60% of Walnut Creek's emissions, we really want to target this. And 2 areas where we see a need for EV chargers and EV infrastructure is in the multifamily sector and at workplaces. So the state has a goal of getting 1.5 million electric vehicles on the road by 2025, and they are on track for that. But the EV charging infrastructure really lags, so we don't have enough to support all those new vehicles. And with multifamily, the tenants can't make that choice to install chargers. So it's something that the landlord can do to provide an amenity and to attract those tenants. And the same with workplaces. If people can't come to your site to work, then they're not going to work there. So we want to really build out that infrastructure. And one of the things that the city is doing is complying with this new legislation, AB 1236, which has the city's expediting EV charger permits. And so our building division is working on a couple of checklists for EV charger submittals. So stay tuned for that, probably by October. And then the last resource here I thought was really interesting was this new report that was done for San Francisco, Oakland, and Fremont that looked at the cost of going beyond what code requires and installing more complete circuits and infrastructure for EV chargers. And the report basically found that it's much cheaper to do it during construction than to go back and retrofit later. So that's just another area where if you kind of plan ahead and do a little bit more up front, you can save yourself costs down the line. And for those who want to go and install EV chargers, there's some great opportunities. So the Air District has a grant. Businesses, nonprofits can apply. The application is November 3rd. PG&E's Charge Network, you could probably ask PG&E if you have questions about this, but they're rolling out 7,500 EV charging stations. They have incentives and they're looking for host sites. So join their interest list if you are interested in being a host. And the state has a new financing program. So step 3 in the strategy is energy efficiency. So we're using more and more electricity, energy. We want to be as efficient as possible. So there are a lot of financing and rebate programs for buildings that already exist to help bring you up to current code standards. And I'll just point out a few. Property assessed clean energy can be used to finance energy efficiency as well as renewable energy, water conservation, and EV charger installation. PG&E has a great on-bill financing option with 0% interest, so you're paying off that project cost through the savings on your utility bill. There's great rebates for multifamily through the Energy Upgrade California building program. And then we've had more than 40 local businesses, including the Yacht Club here, go through the East Bay Energy Watch program for small businesses. So there's lots of resources out there. For new construction, if you want to design buildings to be energy efficient, it's helpful to plan that really early as you're designing the building. And again, PG&E has some great programs for both non-residential and residential. They can help you exceed Title 24 and offer incentives as well. So see if those work for what your project has in mind. And then lastly, zero net energy buildings are the kind of newest and greatest thing in green building practice. So this is where Title 24 Energy Code is going. And what a ZNE or zero net energy building is, it's really a building that consumes as much energy as it produces over the course of a year. So basically it's a very, very efficient building that uses very little energy, and then you usually stick a solar panel on top to offset the rest of that remaining energy. So the goal for the state is to have all new residential construction be ZNE by 2020 and all new commercial construction be ZNE by 2030. So that's really ratcheting up the efficiency of buildings. And it's something that you can start exploring now. This is actually from the city of Santa Monica, which has a code requirement. They kind of went above code, and they are already requiring all new low-rise residential to be ZNE. So these buildings are already possible, but even if you don't hit 100% ZNE, you could still make your building a lot more efficient by using some of the practices here. So just to summarize, we have a number of strategies that help target the biggest sources of our emissions to really make the biggest impact. And if I could recommend 3 things to go along with those strategies, I would say if you're in the development community, check out these new resources to install solar that might help your project have a better payback or a return on investment, or choose Deep Green, the 100% option. You will pay a little bit more on your utility bill. For EVs, you can go beyond the code and actually install the charging stations and have a few at each building or workplace and save yourself some retrofit costs. There's lots of new programs to help you pay for that. And then finally, for energy efficiency, check out those technical assistance programs if you're in the design phase. If you have an existing building, there's lots and lots of rebates and financing that you can take advantage of. So that is it. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them or point you to the right person.
Maybe it's a bit too early in the morning for questions. I don't know. That or you didn't have any sugar. That said, I want to thank Kara again. Her contact information is listed. This presentation will be circulated to those in attendance today via email, which Jessica does as a follow-up. So if you have any questions that may dawn on you after the fact, you'll have all of her contact information available. I'd like to move on to our next presentation and welcome again our special guest, Vic Baker from PG&E. I'm going to set up his PowerPoint and we will be off and running. Also want to make sure that your mic is working. I know
Testing.
Good?
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
All right,
Excellent. All right, Vic. Thank you. Take it away.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy hump day. It's Wednesday. Anybody get up and work out this morning? A couple of you, huh? Good. some P2Pers. I just finished my P2P workout, and I came in at 23.4 pounds last weekend, so I'm pretty pumped up right now. And then I gained, I think, 7 pounds this last weekend, right? But anyway, my name is Vic Baker. I am the division manager for Diablo Division for PG&E. And that big, long title only means that I'm responsible for keeping your lights on and keeping your showers nice and hot. That's really what that means. I manage a team of over 30 people who range from our division superintendents with electric and gas, both transmission, distribution, our vegetation, as well as our energy efficiency programs that you guys see. That team comes together locally. It was actually formed after the San Bruno. We got some responses about our reputation after San Bruno. If you can imagine, we did some local canvassing and find out what is our reputation. Most people felt that we're this San Francisco-based company. We don't have any touch locally. Anything that comes our way, we have to send it all the way to San Francisco, get an answer, and no one knows what's going on locally. So we divided into 19 divisions, Diablo, Contra Costa County being one of those divisions, and now we manage and handle everything here locally here in Contra Costa. And we meet twice a month to handle any and all issues. I got to the company 3 years ago. Just a brief history from me. I'm civil and environmental engineer. Spent most of my early career as a design engineer doing master planning, design, construction management for residential and commercial development. And went to the utility after the downturn in 2006 and 7, and been with the utilities ever since. But here 3 years, and part of my job in coming to PG&E was, Vic, what can we do about, one, making sure our reputation is managed appropriately here? We had some difficulties. I think we walked into Walnut Creek with a problem with removing trees without any permission. Remember that? We fixed that, right? We fixed it. We got through that. And we had some other issues. Our reputation is really something that we wanted to work on, and that is, let's get out of this nomenclature that we are big, bad, and blue, and we can do what we want, when we want, and how we want it. We have customers, and the days of being a regulated monopoly, while they still exist, we are in competition. And our competition is not necessarily with somebody who wants to jump into business, but our competition is with expectations. And some of those expectations are the delivery to customers. What do we expect as customers now? We're used to Amazon and ordering and getting something, and if we have an issue, we can call them up, they'll take it, no problems, and they'll send you a new one. Our customers are important to us, and Geisha Williams jumped on board this year. She's our new president and CEO of PG&E Corporation, and she and her team developed a new and exciting mission, vision, and culture. And what's important about this mission and vision, while we still want to maintain our safety, safety is number one by any means. Safety is it. Everything defaults to safety is first. I want to point your attention to the second sentence and the third sentence, that we are accountable, integrity, transparency, and humility. There's nothing wrong with talking about what we do at PG&E, how we do our business at PG&E. But also, we're here to serve our customers. And then lastly, how about we do things a little different? We've been doing the same thing for years. We have some great people at our company. People who've been here for 30, 35, 40 years. They've been doing this business. They know it like the back of their hand. They can do it in their sleep. But is there opportunity for us to innovate so we can meet the expectations of our customers, right? So that's where we've moved to. So I want to talk to you briefly about some of our service planning. That rolls under us as well at the local level. Some things that we've done, we've worked, since I've been here, we've worked on our permitting and managing our permitting. And we have a few initiatives that I want to talk to you about. So let me talk to you about the current state. Today, a lot of you business land developers go here to start an application with PG&E. This should look familiar to you. This is our website. This is our business website. In case you want to get started on any service, you have to send an application. This is our front door. It's going to remain our front door, but there's going to be some changes moving forward. But once you submit an application, where does it go? Does anybody know? It's kind of a black hole. Am I right? Is it a black? I mean, be honest with me. This is a dialogue. This is not a monologue. So please participate. It goes in a black hole. We don't know where it goes. You guys don't know where it goes. On the back end, we can see it, but you guys don't know. You may or may not get a call in a certain amount of time, but your expectations are such that you want to call. You want to get a response, right? Our current project timeline guide. Now, this is back in January that we made this timeline guide. And I want to bring your attention to, I mean, it shows every bit of our process and the amount of weeks that it takes. Let's add a few more weeks to that. I'm going to be honest with you. Let's add a few more weeks. Why? Because we have so much growth here in Diablo Division. Not just Walnut Creek, but we go all the way out to Discovery Bay. We have Oakley and Brentwood. They're just building homes everywhere. We have the waterfront that's doing a lot of development. We have development everywhere, not including our emergency action. We had January and February, where 100-year storms, right? January, February. So we can't work during that time. So it pushed our schedule back a good 8 to 9 weeks. So anybody who had business in that particular time, how do we fit them in? We only have a certain number of crews, and we're already scheduled 110, 115% out. So how do we fit them in? So our timeline, that 15 to 40 weeks, is really out quite a bit. And why is that important? Because today, it helps us. We need your help. So some of our developers, in working with you guys, two things we primarily need. The first one is to ensure that we get your projects in early. Let's be part of the conversation when it comes to you guys making your Gantt charts and your scheduling, so that you don't make an assumption that it should only take PG&E 8 weeks to do something. Let's get in early, get that application in, let's work with you. The second piece is, when we put you on a construction schedule, right there where it says job release for construction and goes into the construction schedule, that is actually not 3 to 8. It was more like 12 weeks. By the fourth week, 4 weeks before we're supposed to get out there, we need every bit of the work that you're supposed to have done. If you imagine we have 150 hours that we dedicated to your project, and we get out there to do that work, or we show up on a job site and you guys aren't ready for us, what do you think your expectation is? What is your expectation if you're not ready for us and we get out there? I can tell you what I hear. What I hear from developers are, okay, don't worry, we'll get it done today. Won't you just come back tomorrow or next week? We're 120, 115, 120% built out. We can't. We're pushing you all the way back to the back of the bus, 12 weeks again. So it's imperative that you work with us to make sure that we have our projects done. But that's current. We're going to be changing this entire schedule because we have a few initiatives that we're going to do. And primarily it's built upon some metrics that we've accumulated over the last 8 to 10 months. And these metrics identify where the primary pieces of our business have gone. So we're going to dedicate services to our developers, our commercial, our big business, our local, our residential, easy to manage projects. We're going to dedicate certain teams so their expertise can manage it and have a better timeline. So I'm going to talk a little bit about continuous improvement, our support functions, our enterprise customer management, our estimating scheduling, and then a few of those initiatives which are Express Connect and online payments. They're not here yet, but I want you to know it's coming because we've heard you, we've listened. We're trying to grow. Yeah, we're late to the game, but we're trying to get there, and this is how we're getting there. So continuous service planning and design advancement program is our new program that we built out. Is ran by a guy, Senior Director Raj Beesla. He was tasked with making this change and getting it done in 2017. So the end of this, we're going to be seeing this. But read the purpose. The experience for new existing gas and electric business customers by increasing customer communication. How about that? How about we pick up the phone and call you? How about you call us and there's not a full voicemail? How about there's an email that may get responded to? How about that? You know? But when you have when you have service planners, they're really dedicated, they want to do a good job, but there's 70, 80 projects, and that projects, those 70, 80 projects can range from a big commercial developer to a disconnect, reconnect of a home. That's a lot, don't you think? And how do I prioritize? So we're working on simplifying and standardizing that process. And then what that also means is we have dedicated centralized teams, Express Connect, an easy way to get 60% of our work is really simple. 60% of the work that comes in, the applications that come in, maybe a reconnect, disconnect, and maybe it can be anything, but it's really easy type of work. And we're going to centralize that in 2 places throughout all of our service territory. I think it's Fresno and Stockton that we're going to centralize that in. But as they come in, it's, hey, you want to do this? Okay, no problem. Do you want to have your plumber do it? You want us to do it? This is how much it's going to cost. You can do an online payment. You'll be done. How about that? So now we've cut that time of being in someone's queue for 8 to 10 weeks to a matter of days for the 60% of our projects. Enterprise customer management, we'll talk a little bit about that, but that has to do with our bigger projects. There's a certain expertise that goes and a certain attention that we need to give some of our big customers. And that is kind of a thorough, what are you building, what are you doing? Let's talk about energy efficiency at the very beginning of a project. Let's talk about what is it that you're going to be using this for and what your expectation is moving forward. How big do you want to grow? So if you're Google in San Jose, I don't know if they knew that they were going to be building a whole big campus in 15 years. Somebody knew. Somebody had the idea. So how about we be part of those conversations up front? We are in the same room right now, Concord Naval Weapons Station. We're in the room talking with them today about that. If we were not in the room and they came to us and did a regular application, we'll be 15 years behind it. They're going to need a substation. Substation is going to require us to go get CPUC approval. It's going to require us to do new transmission. That stuff does not take, if you thought PG&E was a bureaucracy, imagine going through the CPUC, right? And then, Kara, I think you talk about electric vehicles. So we have a dedicated team program dedicated to our electric vehicles. 7,500 we're trying to push out. We need your help. We need applications from some of you who say, hey, I got a great piece of property that will love to have an electric vehicle, charging station. And we have a team dedicated for that. So you're not going into somebody's queue, you're going directly to that team who can manage it because they're experts. And then, of course, the one local encroachment permit acquisition. We had a huge issue when I got here 3 years ago. Anybody and everybody in PG&E can pull a permit for anything. Now, I mentioned to you electric distribution, electric transmission, gas distribution, gas transmission, vegetation. That's just 5 of 5 departments who can pull permits anywhere. Those are 5 departments that don't talk to each other, right? 5 contacts on those permits. So we had, even with the city of Walnut Creek before we got here and cleaned them up, we had open permits that dated back 10, 15 years. No one monitored, no one closed them, and we were still paying on them. So the city was okay with it. They didn't have a problem. Some cities were okay with it. Some really needed us to clean it up. But we said we're going to localize our permitting. So we only have 2 or 3 people today who our permits are allowed to go through. And they monitor everything, they close them effectively, efficiently, and that helped us with our bottom line. We're using ratepayer money, so that helps you guys as well as ratepayers. It helps us all, right? So let's go through this briefly. Express Connect, I spoke to you a little bit about it, work process and dedicated experience resources at the local level. What are we going to do for you guys? We're improving cycle times, resolving issues more quickly, and improve customer satisfaction. That's the purpose of it. So you're going to hear a theme, and that theme is customer satisfaction throughout this entire presentation. For our employees, it helps set priorities, provides a single point of management, and increases both accountability and work visibility. So now that 60% that I talked about goes to certain departments. That's what they manage. That's how they become experts at it. We'll be able to provide that feedback to you quicker, more responsive, and it helps our employees as well. Enterprise customer management, I talked to you about our large customers. they need a holistic, a lot of our customers need a holistic, I use the word holistic, a holistic and very kind of VIP service from beginning to end. We're dealing with megawatts now. We're dealing with huge gas expansions and gas usage based on your energy efficiency or energy consumption. So we want to identify certain people so they can actually manage those customers and those projects for years as they come on board. And then, of course, our electric vehicle estimating team. Design standalone EV charging stations. That's primarily what we do. We just got the okay this year to do 7,500 charging stations. So we really need to push them out. If you have some ideas, let us know. Take my card. I got it here today. We're looking for projects. And their job specifically is to get those through. Let's get them through. Let's pump them through. Okay? So we're here to help you in that capacity. But more to come. Online payments. Wouldn't it be great for you guys not to have to send up to your corporate, wherever it may be, Southern California, have a check written and sent to FedEx to PG&E? Then we got to take a couple of days to get through our process and then say, okay, you guys are good. How about we just do it online with a credit card? Isn't that what most people do nowadays? Matter of fact, at home, I got the Echo, so I just order stuff. Say, order toothpaste. Okay. It just comes. But that's the expectation. Let's make it easy, because our expectations are different now. Self-service, disconnect, reconnect. You get online, and you just do it. You don't need to hear from anybody. You get an automatic response. You can do this on this day, and this is how you should do it. This is the, use your plumber. If you want to use us, you can do that. How about that? And then application tracking. The ability for you guys to see where your project is. Remember that black hole? No longer. Let's make it visible to you, so you can see it any time. How great is that? We see our packages when they want to come to our homes, right? Why can't we see where our projects are? But that's what I have to offer you guys today. I'm here for any questions, any thoughts. You can catch me after. If you have job-specific questions, catch me afterwards, and I'm more than happy to take your name and number and get back to you on some of those. All right, that's it.
Thanks, Vic. And I appreciate you guys opening the door for Walnut Creek, kind of letting us see behind the wizard and what's going on back there. But so one question is, are you guys considering at all expanding your workers and everything so you can meet this demand, or maybe go out contracting or anything else like that? Because it's a bubble that we're seeing right now. So I can see not totally growing everything, but at least growing your workforce to sort of meet that demand.
So less growing our workforce and more reorganizing our workforce. So these teams that are dedicated, we feel are going to meet the needs now. But if you can imagine, I think I mentioned this before, our service planners, our estimators are getting all projects. If we have dedicated teams, I think the teams will be able to manage itself. So now it's no longer in a queue of everything. We can send those to the experts. So I think that we're going to work on the managing piece first versus trying to staff up, because it's very difficult to anticipate when you're going to need staffing. And it takes a long time to train a service planner. It's about 3 to 4 years to get them up to speed. So and developers know this, like the back of your head. I think I was telling Joe, you guys can kind of predict it, but even then, sometimes we don't do a very good job of predicting, and we hit that, So we try to ramp up in preparation, and then it takes a fall, we're stuck. So we're trying to reorganize.
So, hi, I'm Sandra Meyer, in the Community
Hi, Sandra.
Economic Development Director. Always takes a long time to say. So with some of the new state laws that have just been passed in terms of sort of streamlining, expediting, and making affordable housing or just housing approvals sort of become by right rather than going through lengthy discretionary review processes. Is there any thought from PG&E to maybe push affordable housing or applications for electricity to affordable housing to the front of the line?
Not that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
not that I know of. We treat all our developers pretty much the same, and we want to be at the front door with our developers. So as you decide you want to build affordable housing, engage PG&E at the very beginning, so we can set the right expectations. So you don't necessarily have to be at the front of a line. You're in early enough that we'll be able to work and manage it and be more efficient throughout the entire process. Yes, anyone?
Age. Kurt Blumstrand with Lennox Homes. I have two questions. I'm really looking for a contact person. And the first question is, how do you measure the effectiveness of the solar? And when we do a project, it takes 2.5 years and build it another 1.5 years. So we start off with day one planning it, and 4 years later, we complete it, we put the solar on, and then we're trying to measure the effectiveness because it's a multifamily and we have a budget and we're paying for the electric and all that. But we don't know what's going on, and PG&E comes back and says, we need about a year to evaluate this solar system. And so when I look at the invoices, it's all over the place. So we don't understand what it is, and our contractor put it, he says it's going to be 40, 50, 60%. We don't know. So there's no person that I have found that you can say, okay, here's the bills, here's what it is. What are we saving? That's the first question. The second question is EV charging stations. So 4 years, we figure we're going to need one charging station. We build it, we do it, we have our electrical engineer, he's always running a tight operation, wants to make sure we're energy efficient and all that. We finish the project and we now discover we need 3. We say, how much power do we have coming into this project that we can go ahead and add 2 more charging stations? Our electrician says, oh, there's plenty. But we don't know from PG&E and what it's going to cost, and they say, well, no, you need a whole new line and all that. So it's totally confusing, and so I would like to have 2 people, one that would tell us about the solar system, how efficiency we're running to make sure that the contractor, what he promised has been delivered, and 2, to know what is the capacity of our building that is now 4 years old to add additional EV charging stations.
So, and I appreciate both of those questions. Thank you for that. Let me start with the first one. That's a very difficult one because we're not the contractor for the solar on top of the homes, right? So it's, that you're a customer to someone else. So it's hard for us to predict what that efficiency is going to be. We're not the manufacturer, we're not the installer. We can do our best to kind of guesstimate, but that's where we kind of draw the line. Where we come in is if you have excess, we can just tell you what the CPUC requires us to purchase it back at, what that rate will be. And we can provide that to you. But as far as efficiency, I don't see that being part of our business necessarily. More so your contractor. It's hard for us to gauge the effectiveness of that. But we do have an entire department dedicated to it. And that is not our sustainability department. It's, can't think of the name. But more than happy to take that and get some answers back to you and let you know. But right now, I think it's just a calculator that everyone uses. Yeah. The second piece of your question, remind me again, it was the charging stations, the charging station capacity. So that's where applications come in. What we do, and maybe you guys do know, maybe you don't, but we don't just look at your project. We got to look at the capacity and the expansion and all the other projects that could be coming on, maybe in our application stage for that entire line. So while your project may be a certain amount of load, we may have 3 other projects that are on this that may have increased the load. So we might have to add an additional transformer, secondary, third line. It might affect a lot. So it's not just your property that we have to look at. So the only way that you can do that is to get that application and have us look at the entire circuit and understand the demand that's happening on the entire circuit. Give you an example. We have a community in Alamo, and it's in Alamo. Small community, 6 homes, but started off with one person buying a Tesla Now all the neighbors like that Tesla, so they want to go buy a Tesla. So we got 6 homes with 8 Teslas. All right? That's big demand. That little transformer that we had is not sufficient to provide enough electricity to charge those supercharging stations that they have in their garage. It's just not. So we have to go and put an additional transformer in there and bring more load just to that small community just to manage their Teslas. That's just an example. Hopefully that helped answer that question.
Do you have 2 people that I could
Yes,
talk to?
yes, the answer is yes, yes.
Hi, my name is Dan Freeman. I'm a small developer locally here.
There's no such thing.
Yeah, well, we try to stay small. I can just give you some feedback because I think the intent of what PG&E is doing is very noble. I look at your chart there. I think you're smart because you're trying to reset expectations. Because what we're seeing is you have accomplished, which I look at you guys like a big ship, you know, and the ship is going forward. All the people on the ship, you've turned the ship around, guys. It doesn't work. All the people have turned around. The ship is still going. And the reason that I say that is that the people that we work with honestly are trying to work with us.
Okay.
They call us back.
Good.
They tell us the bad news. The bad news has gotten worse. So that's I think the problem is that, and I appreciate Steve's question because it's like, okay, now we know we got a problem. It should not take 8, 10, 12, 14 weeks for someone to come back and look at a label. It shouldn't. It's our job, but you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And the people are telling us that. And that's the great part about it for a second when they say, God, you're not alone. We see you there, and I can't get to you for another year. You may die. I don't know. So we're trying to work with our people, and you know, I'll give you an example. We have houses done and houses sold. We pre-sell them, whatever else. Everything is done, and we will sit there and wait for PG&E. Their loans are locked. Their furniture's moved. Their house is sold. We went through the application process here in Walnut Creek for 3 years or whatever it takes. All this stuff happens, and it just comes to a screeching halt. We're not perfect, like you said. Be ready. Hey, when you're there, be ready. And it's like, that tag needs to be that tag. I'll be back in 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And it just, it's not working. Right. So I commend you guys. It has been an obvious change compared to the black hole of why aren't they calling me back? He was my best friend a week ago. That's gone. So we appreciate that. But I think your schedule is about half of what it really is. We had over a year in the contract phase on something, and we had the joint trench contractor who used to work for PG&E, and I know all the guys, and we'll get it through. Yeah. And a year later, we got oh yeah, it's approved. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Yeah, it's perfect. So there's something wrong on the reality side of it, but I do commend you guys. The people are big difference from what it was 4 years ago.
Thank you, Kurt. I appreciate that. We're working. It's a work in progress, and we're trying. Anyone else?
I had a.
Hamitai from Habitat for Humanity. I do have a couple of questions. We do have a big project. For us, big. 42 units in the community that we're trying to work with. Before we got the land, in the due diligence process, we sent an application to the black hole, along with, I don't know, $5,000-10,000 fee, and requested certain facilities to be moved out of the property so we can put houses there. And this is over a year ago. We haven't heard back. Okay, so your conversation of inviting you to the room, as you've been invited to the room in Concord with Lennar and doing the naval weapons station, we invited you to the room over a year ago, and we haven't heard back as what the plans are. And we're given assumption that, okay, maybe they're wrapping it up with the actual project development application. So the city has asked us, what is the plan for this facility to move out? Because you're putting houses where the facilities are. So we want to know, with this new approach that you're doing, which I commend you for that. It's fantastic. Are you going to bring some of those old requests in front of the line and
So-
try to attend that so we can get going on,
Yeah,
on the
so-
development process? We are actually contemplating on a Z&E development with the EV chargers for all vehicles. So we're going to be requesting a lot of demand and a lot of power from you. Okay, so tell us how you can work with us, so you can bring us to the front of the bus and work and work through the.
So what I will say is, thank you for that. And that's, unfortunately, it's not abnormal. Okay, they exist. We recognize that it exists, and that's the purpose of us making these changes. Right? We don't want our customers to be a year in wondering where the project is, what's happening, not getting a call back. We don't want that at all. That's not where we want to be. Even with this new process, there may be some that fall through the cracks. I'm not sure, but the idea is to get that percentage to be minimal, right? With respect to yours, it's dialogue like this that helps me recognize, helps me make a call to somebody and say, hey, where are we with this project? What's going on? What's missing? And when we do that, when we do make those calls in and find out what's missing, we look in the system, there's a level of miscommunication. We'll take ownership of the miscommunication we've had on ours. No, don't get me wrong. But there needs some attention to it, and we don't mind providing that attention. When it gets elevated to me, it gets attention. So that's a particular project. You have my card. Give me a call, send me an email, let me know what's happening. We're local, you guys. We're local. I'm local. So when you have that inquiry, it comes to me. Yeah. Anybody? I'm sorry. Yes.
Hi, thank you. And thank you for sharing. This feels very much like your version of the blueprint for success that's
Yes.
rolling out here in certain ways. So you're where we were probably about a year and a half ago, and we're excited to see what's next. Short of everyone calling your line and emailing you,
yeah.
right? Because I do imagine you yourself have capacity issues.
Yes.
One of the things you said was engage us early, engage us almost as a thought partner for
Yes.
some of these when people are starting to think about development. So when someone comes to us, whether it's a large scale development or someone who we know is going to submit an application for a restaurant or something along those lines, and they're coming to us at the pre-app stage or quite early in the process, where and to whom should we be reaching out to say, okay, we're in this preliminary stage, but we want to get it right?
Right. So a couple of ways. Give you an idea of what we piloted with the city of Pittsburgh. And I know most of our pilots are here, Steve, but we did cheat on you with the city of Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh, so it's okay. What we piloted there is ensuring that any application that came into the city of Pittsburgh with respect to development automatically got a tag to us. All right, so automatically got an email. So now, instead of the developer reaching out to us, maybe the developer gets a phone call. Hey, have you thought about putting your application in? How about that? So we're trying that out to see how that works. We have an email address, but even on your applications, you still get a response back with contact information. Use that contact information. And on our end, we need to do a better job at making sure we respond to that. Don't get me wrong. We may not have been the best in the past, but we are getting there. But you're gonna get an email saying, hey, we got your app. This is the contact information. If you have any questions, send it here. You're gonna be given a service planning person to have to create that and start that dialogue and that relationship with. Yeah. So we're trying our best to get rid of that black hole. Bear with us. Yes.
Your process has been improving since 3 years ago. Before that, it was really frustrating to work with PG&E. I had to go knock at their doors and your Concord office until somebody, respond to my.
That's before my time. I don't need to worry about that.
Now you got the application online.
Before VB.
Yeah, but one complaint I have is when PG&E assign a staff to a project, there's a turnaround. Like 6 months later, I get an email from that rep that your project, I'm not assigned to your project anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is there any way we can reduce the staff turnaround? Because that staff knows about the project. And, you know,
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah.
It takes a while for somebody else to pick up the ball and move with it, you know?
You know, we're essentially a construction company like many other developers, and we have staffing turnaround. It just exists. And when you're talking about a 22,000, 24,000 person company, that staffing, and unionized when it comes to engineers. So we have union engineers, we have union construction. They can bid out to go anywhere. You know, so you're talking about somebody says, hey, I want to move to Fresno. They're bidding out to go to Fresno. You got somebody from Sacramento want to come here. It just it's all the time. That's part of our management, and our staff knows. They just have to manage it. Our supervisors know that's just part of the deal, and we have to work through it. You know, yeah.
I just wonder if there are.
That's a hard one. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering if there are other questions in the room. We're coming up on the top of the hour, and I had one thought or one question, but I want to see if there's anyone else in the audience that had any thoughts or questions to pose.
No?
Perhaps this is a good summary type question, but I was curious because, as Jessica alluded, we're going through a similar process over the last year or so. We're implementing changes. We're trying to track our success through various metrics, and I'm curious what PG&E's perspective is. When do you know we have succeeded? When, and what is PG&E's kind of what's your concluding statement? You're outlining changes to come, things you're working on. How do you know you've achieved success? What metrics or what? How are you evaluating success on your end?
That's a very valid and fair question. We did not enter this without that in mind. So we kept that as the end in mind and applied metrics to it. But first and foremost, we benchmarked ourselves. We benchmarked ourselves with several utilities around the country and said, what are you guys doing? People who have great metrics with regards to their customer satisfaction, their ability to get through this process very quickly. And it was a little difficult because if you can imagine, there are not many gas and electric companies in one around the country. I mean, even in Southern California, you got to do an application at Edison and an application at SoCal Gas, right? You know, we only have 3 here in California, and that's SDG&E, that's LA Power and Gas, and then that's us. But we benchmarked first, and that's where we came up with some of the ideas that we're going to be implementing, but that also came with metrics. So I don't know exactly what it is, but I can tell you those metrics are cycle time, how fast we can get back to you, customer satisfaction, how satisfied are you with our service, our customer-related services to you, our productivity, our efficiency, and our ability to do this and save money at the same time. And we're talking about saving you guys money, energy efficiency and things of that sort. So I don't know exactly what they are, but they're around those particular areas. And they're going to be related, I'll be honest with you. They're going to be related to how well we do as a company, as a shareholder company. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Vic Baker from PG&E.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all of you again. You've done it again. You've spent another hour with us on a monthly basis talking about issues of importance to you. I want to highlight that this monthly forum is a year in the making. Or actually, we've been at it a year, pardon me. Next month, I think, is actually 1 year anniversary, if you want to call it that. We will be talking next month, and I'd like to highlight, actually, as it was on the agenda, but we're going to be talking about parking in Walnut Creek. And I think there's a lot of innovation, a lot of discussion, and a lot of thoughtful dialogue to be had around that. So I would encourage those of you in the room today to come back next month, October 18th, middle of the month, as always, third Wednesday of the month. We're going to be talking about parking. Who's going to be discussing the city's strategies, how we are trying to manage demand for parking in and around downtown, among other places. We're also going to be having a guest from a guy named Bob Power from ParkSmart. He is a private parking demand management company. And the highlight for that, or kind of an insight that you may not realize, 3 out of 10 stalls in Walnut Creek, parking stalls, are public, which means the other 7 out of 10 are privately held. And so it's an interesting dynamic you may or may not have been aware of, and I think will be a great point of departure for a really interesting topic of conversation, both residentially related and commercially related as it pertains to parking. And I had some interesting, at the start of the conversation this morning with some developers in the room about parking. That said, that's next month. I want to thank you for joining us this month. Again, thank you to PG&E. Appreciate all of your time this morning. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next month.